Hey everyone, welcome to the Dollar Podcast, episode 67. This week we're going to be talking about great British and American comedy from years past. We got some great stuff coming forward with History of the World Part 2. So we'll be talking about that as well. All right, guys. So how y'all been? How's the week been going?
Major halt in studio.
Mm.
Had to literally tear it all apart after getting it all together because I lost multiple pieces and stuff in a very short amount of time. Very frustrating.
I understand that.
So
the joys of projects, right?
you didn't even get the project. It's just hardware.
Yeah. No, I mean it's been good, man. Just time management's always a fun thing to try and get your head around, right? You got so much stuff you need to do, so much stuff you want to do, and trying to make sure you're balancing all that out right can be a little frustrating. You realize, you know what, I probably should have done this. Oh man, I had time to do that. It's like if I could just not, I might be able to get caught up on half the things I want to do, and then I would spend the rest of my time doing the things I need to do. But it sucks. But
yeah,
that's adulting for you, right?
Oh yeah, tell me about it. I mean, for us, for this weekend, I was like, I think Sunday going into Monday, I was like, do I have clothes for work tomorrow? I started scrambling because we didn't do any clothes because we both just kind of like relaxed the whole weekend, especially dealing with everything going on with my old job. And then finally that is completely done. I do not have to think about them ever again. But it's just nice being able to come home and not have work follow me and not have to do work on Sundays. I can just veg out, play with my son, have a good time with the family. And that's about it. I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. And then, my wife's like, I can just see it. You look different.
Yeah.
But
I mean, getting that you time is always really important, right?
Mm-hmm.
Consistently getting, some you time because everybody's got to decompress.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's got some point to just vent a little bit, just turn it off, turn it all off, and just like you said, veg out, right? Do something you want to do and not have to have in the back of your mind like, oh man, what am I gonna have to stop in the middle of this to go deal with something? Am I gonna have it's just you, right? You and the fam.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we were waiting on my last paycheck, which came today. Of course, this is Tuesday, not the actual day this goes up. But, because we're going to go see my dad and my sister and stuff that we just couldn't do it. And then I was hoping we'd have enough funds to go see Avatar 2 finally. But, nope. Other things come first, as being an adult, we have to take care of responsibilities. So,
right.
But I did pick up Vengeful Guardian Moonrider. Pretty awesome game. Reminds me of Mega Man. I was playing a bunch of it yesterday. It plays like a Mega Man X. It's just fun. You got these other robots that are just like you that you're fighting on different places. You get different power-ups from them. It's fun. Really, really fun.
Yeah, I just saw a trailer for that the other day that got on my radar. And then I saw a video somebody posted up about a bunch of hidden gems for the Switch that I got interested in. One of them was called Infernax, which is I haven't played that yet, but I saw some gameplay footage of it and I was like, that looks pretty badass. So yeah, that the one you were just talking about, that Infernax, are ones that are on my radar. The boy beat me to beating Callisto Protocol, so he's all excited about that. I'm like halfway to 3/4 through it, just because I haven't been putting a lot of time into it. And then of course the Dead Space remake is almost upon us in 2 weeks, I think. So
yep.
I
believe so.
Actually got, I don't know if it comes up, but I have the original and 2 up here in this room because this is where my PS3 is. So I was kind of going back and playing on those a little bit because I have my old save file data, so I just went to New Game Plus and was running around with a fully powered up plasma cutter, just taking out necromorphs everywhere. So that's always fun. Yeah, gameplay wise, the most stuff I've been really doing was going back to Greedfall because there was some DLC that came out for that game that I haven't gone back and they're supposed to be coming out with a sequel, right? They announced it, and man, that game's just a lot of fun. It's just a classic, almost BioWare-esque RPG that was pretty cool. But other than that, just been trying to catch up on some shows and movies and stuff, right? I watched a weird kind of indie movie called Run Sweetheart Run on Amazon. It doesn't star anybody. Oh, actually, I was about to say it doesn't star anybody that anybody would know, but it stars Agent Coulson. Agent Coulson's in it, so that was kind of interesting. It's a violently feminist movie, I would say, but I mean that in the sense that it's extremely feminist and it's extremely violent at the same time. So it's a lot of fun, right? For the people that have a hard time with feminist messaging, I guess you might be hurt by it, but it's like right as they start talking about how this lady's awesome and and women are the best and they're the greatest ever, then you just have people getting their heads ripped off everywhere, just blood spraying all over the place. It was great. The monster in it, I was thinking it was one thing and it turned out to be another. So that was like overall it was a very original kind of just fun, stupid little B movie that was pretty enjoyable to get through.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from that, I watched White Lotus season 2 on HBO, which is much better than the first season. I did not care for the first season, found it boring, but season 2 is great. If you get a chance, you want to watch a fun little murder mystery with some really dark humor to it, go check out that one. And then, of course, The Last of Us, right? I sat down and watched the first episode of that, and such a novel concept for a property getting turned into live action. They actually stuck, for the most part, to the source material. And guess what? It was actually pretty good. Shocking, right?
That's what I heard. But we can only see how things go and how much they interject. Last of Us 2, which I hate that game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that's what I'm really curious about, right? Because they've said that this first season's supposed to be just the first game, and if that's the case, and they don't want to see the amount of backlash they got on the game here, then they need to start laying some groundwork, making Abby a little bit more of a sympathetic character before she just rolls in with her broad ass shoulders and uses that 9-iron on Joel's head. So
the steroids, yeah, she's all ripped and everything.
Yeah, the post-apocalyptic steroids and the amount of calories she
would
somehow
have to intake. Yeah, she would have to intake. Maybe they're cannibals,
Maybe. I don't know that they ever fully explained exactly how she got that. Because then at the end of the game, she wasn't ripped anymore. She went back to being like really tiny and emaciated, if I remember right?
I think so, but I don't know. Can you go back like that if you take steroids? I mean,
it takes time. It takes time. If you don't keep developing the muscles and you stop taking the steroids, yes, your body will lose that mass.
Convert to fat? Like, doesn't the muscle just convert to fat, and so then you would just burn that off?
Yeah, in some cases, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you wouldn't do it in like a couple of years, right? It would take a long time, wouldn't it?
It takes a little time, yeah. Maybe she was on Venom there, the stuff Bane's on.
Yeah, that's it. It's all taking place in the DC
universe. Yeah, I can see it. So I did hear from what you were telling Andrew about it was the fact that there is no spores, and it's just weird.
Yeah, it's kind of, and what's weird is Andrew pointed it out. There's a scene where Joel like some furniture and the camera lingers and you can see little motes of stuff floating in the air. And so if you play the game, you would think, oh, there's spores in there, they need to be careful. And then you realize it's just dust. Because later on in the show, they're, in the game, whenever they're going through the tunnels before they get Ellie, it's just Tess and Joel. As they're going through the tunnels, they that guy that's just, melted into the wall, right?
Yeah, he's just
And
a
at that,
spore factory at that point.
yeah, and it's just, there's spores everywhere, and they're just standing there, no mask on, just hanging out, talking in front of this dude. And the sad part about that is it really, I mean, it removes a type of tension that you could put into the show at certain points, right? Because it's not like you wore the gas mask everywhere all the time in there. It
No.
was just when you closed, cramped quarters with the clickers, you had to have that mask on because otherwise you were done, right? And it made for some tense moments of, man, all it takes is for that mask to come off and you're
One
done,
breath.
right?
Breathe, yeah, just breathing it in infects you. And you know what, like, begs to differ. Is it because Pascal doesn't want to have to wear a mask? Going back to the Mandalorian.
Yeah, that's kind. I mean, I don't know why else they would have gotten rid of that. Like, I mean, because again, it's not even that much that they wear the masks. So unless they just saw all of the rumors and stuff about the behind the scenes things that were going on with Mando, that they just decided, hey, come on over here and play this role. We're gonna make sure that you don't ever wear a mask ever throughout the entire show, and you'll be good. I don't know, man, but Andrew made a good point that I hadn't really thought of, was that that the spore aspect to the infection made this specific story a little different, a little more interesting, right? You had this new wrinkle to what you had to deal with. It wasn't just, oh, you got bit, you're done, right? Oh, you got scratched. Oh, there's a little bit of blood that dropped on you. You're done. It's over. You're a zombie now. No, it was literally just breathing could do you in if you were in the wrong circumstances without the correct equipment. And now you don't have that. Now they're just kind of traditional zombies where they just run up at you and bite down on you and inject the little fungal tendrils into you, and then you're done. It makes me wonder if we'll ever get a scene. The only way I can think of them using those like tentacle things in a way that's more interesting is if you went Invasion of the Body Snatchers, right? And you would have them like go into what they think is a safe house, but maybe there's like a dead clicker or something in another room or in a portion of it that they're not aware of, and they fall asleep. And as they sleep, maybe it's growing, across, right? And they don't realize it's there. And then they're like waking up to it trying to get one of them and they have to escape, or maybe it does get somebody and they realize what happened, right? Just something to make it a more interesting type of infection than just you're bit, you're done, right? Like even the strain had a better version of it where, okay, yeah, they don't just have to bite you, but if you get like, and even if you, cut them, right? If those worms get in you, you're done, right? That was kind of cool. That was kind of interesting. And Last of Us sort of had that, but now it doesn't.
Well, see,
Until
that's where, like, how is it like define itself from, or other zombie shows if you don't have the fungus?
I mean, you do have the fungus. It just doesn't behave like fungus,
Yeah, it
right?
doesn't. Well, it doesn't have the spores. It doesn't have the thing. The one of the main ways people get the virus. Um, it's great to have visual representations of the creatures, but if you don't have that one main aspect, you're
You've
eliminating
lost.
your creativity.
Yeah. So like I said, the first episode was pretty good. They expanded on some stuff from the game, right? You saw certain events that you see certain events transpire that you didn't see in the game because
Right.
everything was from Joel's perspective. So like there's a scene where you see Tess whenever she gets attacked and held hostage before she go meets up with Joel. You see the first interaction between the Fireflies and Ellie whenever she's first kind of captured and they're trying to, break her out. So you see other things, and then the beginning of the show builds up Joel's daughter a lot more than what you saw in the game. Just for new people establishing that a little bit more of a bond and kind of. I think they were trying to pull the same trick the game did, right? Where you started off playing his daughter, and it wasn't until later that you started playing as Joel. And so the game kind of, for if you didn't, watch the trailers and all that stuff, kind of made you wonder or think like, oh, here's the player I'm playing as, and then they shock you by killing her off. Sort of the same thing here. The beginning of the show starts off from his daughter's perspective, and so if you don't know the game, then you might think, oh, here's my main character, here's the person I'm following, and then they go full Ned Stark on her, and she gets taken out. So, like I said, it's so far it's one episode in. They're sticking pretty much to the lore of the game with a few tweaks and alterations here and there. So shockingly, it was enjoyable. It's well shot. The effects and everything look really cool. I don't particularly like the little girl right now, like Ellie. She, like, for whatever reason, this first episode, she came off really, really abrasively and I can't quite put my finger on it because she cusses, right? She attacks Joel, all this stuff, but she's kind of annoying right now. And I don't remember being annoyed at Ellie. So I don't know if it's just I need to adjust my expectations to this actress or what, but I kind of want to go back and rewatch some of the cutscenes from the first game and kind of get a feel again for how Ellie behaved, so I can have a good, cross point for watching her and trying to pinpoint, like, okay, what is it about this that's sitting wrong with me, and see if I can push my way through it. But
how far did they get in the first episode?
The first episode
compared to like the game.
The first episode covers them getting Ellie and then them starting their way out of town. It ends with them going out of the tunnel, being confronted by the guard who goes through and tests each of them, and that's when they find out that Ellie's infected, right?
Yeah.
And then Joel beats the guard down, and then they go walking off, and that's the end of the first episode.
So is Tess still around at this point, or has she been? Okay. Okay.
I think in the game and this is that's the weird thing. It's like Tess is still around, but if I remember the game right, she dies almost immediately after this.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if episode 2 is going to open up with the death of Tess, or if maybe they're going to change it and keep her around a little bit longer. Because I heard some people talking about how IMDb has the Tess actress listed for more than just the first 2 episodes. It's like half the season she's there. And
I mean,
I'm
is
like,
she gonna be in a flashback? I mean, that's.
I don't know. I hope they don't do a lot of flashbacks, man. Like, I don't remember Last of Us having that many of them. I don't even think Last of Us really had flashbacks, not that I recall.
No, I mean, the only flashback we got is the DLC with Ellie and her friend.
Yeah, so I hope they don't do the whole flashback thing. I get that would be a way to like tell the other character story, but that's not the focus of it, right? The focus of the story should be Joel
and Ellie. Yeah.
And the bond that they forge and what it eventually leads Joel to do, right? Like that's what this season should be about.
Yeah, so, regaining his humanity and his fatherhood through the fact of caring for this child through this journey, and his, what a parent would do. I don't care what anybody says. Any parent would do what Joel does in that first game. So I'm getting into my little tangent here because it pisses me off. But first cuss word. Anyway,
don't worry, man. You're outside the
first. Throw a little counter up.
Throw a little counter up. But yeah, no, I'm gonna eventually watch it. I didn't really want to watch it because I 2 gave me a bad taste. I don't want to, because it's like Optimus Prime had a better death than Joel.
You mean from AIDS, right? Is that what that was?
What Optimus Prime?
Yeah, Robot. Is that what Robot Chicken did that, right? Where he died of a.
No, yeah, I know, but remember, it was Megatron. They had a big battle and stuff, and Rodimus got him killed. Anyway, yeah. So I don't know. I want to watch it, but I don't want to have to see them try to retcon things from the original game to make 2 better. I feel like that's what Disney's trying to do with Star Wars, because they wanted to make their sequel trilogy better by changing history with the prequels and everything else. Anyway,
and here we go.
So, Colin, you been watching anything lately?
No, I've been watching an amp go up in smoke. That's what I've been watching. When you turn on an amp and it sounds like literally like a blast furnace, you you know you don't know what to do.
Well, I think the first thing you need to do is unplug the amp.
Yeah, unplug it.
Actually, I turned everything off.
Then when it levitates 6 feet off the floor, unplugged, then you need to do your job.
That's when I get my holy water. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
So let's move into the fact that we're talking about Last of Us, that there has been a couple trailers. We got to see the Ant-Man Quantumania, and there was some guest appearance of characters that we weren't expecting. Besides, what we had expected. What? MODOK, isn't it?
Yep.
And so I don't know. Who else did you see, Colin?
What else did I watch?
No.
In the trailer.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of different versions of Scott Lang if you look at it close enough. It's like all the Scott Langs of the multiverse get involved somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it was nice to really see how they're going to deal with Kang, as a character and his appearance and everything like that.
He definitely looks better than he does in the comics, because man, the comics Kang looks kind of odd. Yeah, a little bit. Like whenever I originally heard that Kang was going to be the bad guy of this new phase, and I was like, oh, I don't know anything about this guy, and I went and I pulled up the picture that came up. I'm like, what the hell is this? I read like the backstory and everything for him, and I yet once again said, what the hell is this? He's a multiversal, universal dude who's got like 80. He's got like 80 iterations of himself from different times, and sometimes he's a good guy, and sometimes he's a bad guy, and sometimes he's neutral, and sometimes I'm like, Jesus, man, like y'all are just making this way too confusing. What are you doing?
Yeah, and eventually there's supposed to be play up on that too. But apparently, Quantumania is going to be the whole start of, how everything's going to shape.
Yeah,
and it's supposed to technically wrap up with Kang Dynasty, the Avengers movie there, and then it's supposed to parlay into Secret Wars. So whatever Kang's got going on, it's going to be multiverse pulling. They're basically doing some version of the Ant-Man thing that they did with Spider-Man. Because I saw different stuff. I'm like, wait, but that's this, and there's a couple Kangs floating around here. Darren Cross, MODOK. That was hard to swallow. Just
yeah, I saw a picture of MODOK. I guess I saw two pictures of MODOK because I haven't watched the trailer, and it looked like one of them MODOK had like a weird mask on. And then I saw another one. I hope it's doctored, right? I hope somebody just did an awful deep fake, because I saw one where the mask off, and there's a movie. There's a B horror movie from the 80s, or was it the early 90s? It's called like Head of the Family or something like that. That looked like a more convincing motive than the thing that I saw the picture of, which was kind of terrifying.
Yeah, what they're doing is they're somehow working it into what happened to him in the first Ant-Man movie, where he got shrunk so fast that it disproportionate everything. And I guess Kang gets a hold of him and says, okay, we're going to fix you by doing this, but oops, too much head, Yeah. And then everything else is just little, oh, yes, okay.
Yeah. It's actually a pretty good movie. If you've never seen it. It was on Shudder. Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm just curious of what the end credits are going to be. Is this going to be the thing that leads into the Avengers, not Avengers, but the Fantastic Four?
I don't know. I
Well, they still haven't
There's a
even.
lot of rumors with what they're doing. They're saying the last rumor that I read about Fantastic Four was that they're going to be doing it's going to be a deep space thing,
Mhm.
and it's going to explain why they were around, but they weren't there for any of this other stuff because they were off in space for whatever reason, and then they come back.
I could see a whole Lost in Space thing going on, and you have
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad way to handle it.
I mean, doesn't the Fantastic Four have the whole the negative zone or whatever it's called, right?
Yeah, and they're probably going to be playing up on that too
mm,
eventually, because the negative zone is probably going to show up. I mean, because if you go back and you look at the previous stuff that they did with the quantum realm, there's a lot of different things, and the negative zone was probably one of the Easter eggs in it. And it wouldn't surprise me that Kang can use that to go through the negative zone. He just chooses not to because Annihilus is on the other side of that door.
yeah.
I
So,
don't know.
and on the other note, we can talk about the fact that the Mandalorian season 3 trailer came out. Looks
Yes,
really good. Um,
yeah, that going
I
back to Mandalore and getting back to the roots of the character looks really really
really
good.
good. Um, as I was telling David, I remember reading that once I think this is probably going to be the last season with Pascal as Mando, because starting with the Luke Skywalker series where he's the Jedi Temple stuff, it's supposed to be Carl Urban in the role of that of Mando. But I don't know. That could have changed. But what, David?
I'm more than fine with that.
No, I am too, because we know he's not going to bitch about taking off his helmet.
Right? Man, Carl Urban will rock that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
Now we just need maybe that'll be his inroad. He'll be able to convince Disney to help him make Dread 2.
yeah, we're all for that. Dread 2 needs to happen.
That's what I want to see. I want to see the Disney castle, right? The little thing go over, and then the camera pans up and out, and then you see the layout of like Mega City, right?
31,
And
yeah.
then it zooms in, and it's just Dread like just gunning mothers down. Yeah, that's what I need. I'm down with that. Hard R.
Yeah, it needs to be a hard R. But yeah, it looks really good. They have it looks like there's another flashback within the Jedi Temple. Then it might be we'll find out who actually went and rescued Grogu. And it's kind of cool that it looks like Mando's training him to be a Mandalorian while he's using the Force. But I'm curious. I'm hoping that Luke's going to be in this. I'm hoping we get more of the bounty hunters. I want to see Bosk, IG-88. Come on, I want to see other characters within the lore. But I did like the idea that there's a possibility of going to Coruscant, or at least there's some kind of New Republic thing, because the pilot that helped Mando in season 1 and 2 looks like he's taken over something. Plus, what is it, Griff? Carl Weathers' character. I can't remember his name at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like that planet has really kind of boomed.
It's got a little bit more.
Yeah. So
And I gotta say, for having to come up with a whole bunch of Mandalorian helmets, they did a pretty good job with them.
yeah.
Some really interesting designs and all that.
Well,
Yeah.
if the lore is right, if that helmet he found in the dirt is Mandalore's helmet, he who has the helmet actually rules Mandalore, not the Black Saber, as far as the old EU goes. So that'd be
Right.
kind of interesting. Reforging that with some Beskar. Be cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool, man. I mean, like I literally just watched the trailer before we fired this whole thing up, and I mean, yeah, it looks good. It's been the best thing that Star Wars has been putting out since a while now. So
Yeah. Hey, well, we did like Andor, so I mean, other than some of the pacing issues, it was still great. compared to like Kenobi and everything else.
Andor was good. I liked a couple of the episodes of Legends, right? That was the anime one, I
Mhm.
think. That one had a couple of episodes in it,
Legend of the
or
Jedi. Or,
some shit like that. I don't know. I haven't watched Bad Batch 2 yet. I haven't watched any of Rebels. I haven't watched Bad Batch, and I haven't watched Bad Batch 2. So it's in the pile somewhere, maybe.
you need to
I
watch
don't know.
Rebels. If you have not yet watched Rebels, you need to just sit down with you and your son and just go to town. I mean, it's great.
I'll get to it eventually, man. Maybe. Someday. One day. We'll see.
Uh,
But what else, Colin?
I don't know, the only other thing that I watched that I really got excited about was History of the World Part Two.
Yes.
I mean, the first week of March is going to be amazing. I mean, it starts off with Mandalorian and then it caps off with History of the World Part Two, which is they're calling it a 4-night extravaganza. You know, which means they're probably going to be, because it was supposed to be like 8 or 10 episodes of it that they filmed. So there's going to be at least 1 or 2 per night, and they're going to make a big event of it. And I might piss myself in the excitement. I watched it 2 or 3 times because there was just so much they tossed in there. You know, I was just, so I geeked out over it so badly. No, that's the only other interesting thing. I'm still rebuilding stuff, so once I get my Fire TV built or get back into place and get back online and everything, like David, I've got a long queue. So if I'm gonna be rebuilding stuff, I'll just fire that up, have it in the background, and just go. That's what I ended up doing for Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
Worked out fine.
Which we can segue into the main topic tonight about great British humor and American humor, films and TV shows.
Yeah. History of the World Part One. I mean, Mel Brooks in general, man. The guy's a legend. And I was talking to the boys earlier, and I was like, of all the people he had in his movies that helped get his career and his status to where he is, most of them are gone. And he's outlived most of them. You go back and look at all the names and stuff like that. Very, very few of them are still around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, just like with Mel Brooks, I think I've seen History of the World Part One maybe once. I've seen Spaceballs only a couple of times. The Mel Brooks movies I've seen the most are Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein. Young Frankenstein being the one I've seen more than any of the others.
Yeah,
and I mean, just right there, right? You've got Gene Wilder and Peter Boyle, right? We just lost what Gene was a couple of years ago, and Peter Boyle was back at
5 years ago.
Early 2000s, right? I mean,
yeah,
he's been going for a minute, so it's like, yeah, I mean, just right there, you got 2 examples of the main stars right there that are no longer with us.
Yeah. I've seen History of the World Part One. I wish I could find a way to prove this because it probably is a world record. I've seen it 246 times. I can quote it line for line as it happens in real time.
Goodness.
I love that movie so much. I've got it. I've had digital DVD. I've got it on the old picture disc video player now. Just, I mean, any chance I had to watch it, to sit down and watch it, I took it. And it just the numbers just kept accumulating. And I wish I had a way to prove it. If I like a picture or something, because then I could go, hey, maybe this is a weird record.
Yeah, go to Guinness. Hey guys, I got a really oddball record for you. I don't know that anyone is going to beat it. I mean, I'm sure some out there will see it and accept the challenge and just decide, you know what, I'm gonna watch it every day for an entire year.
That's a fun challenge.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe I'll do that next year.
Take yourself a goal. I'm gonna watch History of the World Part One once a day, every day for an entire year.
Block out the same time every day. Okay.
I'm hoping that we're gonna get some of the skits that he was teasing with the part 2.
He might figure out how to expand on it and stuff like that. But some of the stuff that I saw in the trailer, I mean, apparently he's going to spend a little bit of time, on the era of Jesus and stuff like that. But some of the stuff that they had going on around that was great. And Wanda Sykes, I have a weird love-hate relationship with her. A lot of the stuff she's in and her comedy doesn't really grab me. But the stuff I saw of her in that, where she was playing Harriet Tubman, and then, that was great. It's Harriet Tubman. It's like, how did these dumbasses enslave us?
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be great.
I'm curious because they showed, you could interconnect a lot of the stuff that they showed. Okay, I'm wondering how far they're gonna go. I mean, did they just show you, like the first quarter of the whole thing to really draw you in? Because I looked at the list of names and I didn't see some of those people in the stuff I saw, like Johnny Knoxville. Didn't see him in any of that stuff. So where is he going to put Johnny Knoxville? I mean,
I'm Johnny Knoxville. Welcome to Jackass. He plays it.
He plays
hilarious.
I could see Johnny Knoxville. He's doing something like Civil War-esque, but it's like a Jackass version of Civil War. So, and I'm watching it, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, he's got a lot of the great names, like Kamir Najali, I think it is, from Saturday Night Live.
Mm-hmm.
I saw his name in there, and I've been checking out some of his stuff. The guy's really funny. He's got a lot of talent. And I didn't see him in anything that I saw on the trailer. So where are they going to tuck him? When are they going to use him for it? That should be great. So I don't know. Did you get to watch it, David, or no?
I didn't see that trailer yet. I saw you. Threw it up in the chat, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go watch that," and then I didn't.
No, you're gonna want to watch it a couple times to really just absorb it all in, because it's really fast paced.
I probably need to go back and read. Like I said, I've only seen the movie once, and I barely remember that movie. I need to go back and rewatch that probably, then go watch the trailer so I can have a little bit of a better appreciation for some of the stuff that's going on, and then see where it goes. Because yeah, like I said, just man, Young Frankenstein was just the one that I watched all the time, just because all the and that was one of the things that Mel Brooks was so good at, right? Was slipping in these like little jokes that you really had to be paying attention and watching, right? These little physical gags, and like when Wilder stabs himself in the leg with the fork, right? And he's giving a big impassioned speech, and then he slams his hand down on his leg, but he was holding the little fork in it, stabs it into his leg, and then he lets it go, and he looks down, and he immediately grabs the fork, and then he slowly crosses his legs over it to hide it, right? It was just like little gags like that were great.
Yeah, the whole Gene Hackman scene in the cabin with him and Peter Boyle. just the constant soup.
Oh, here's a nice cigar, trying to light it for him, and he's.
I mean, they played off each other so well. And one thing I really like, have you seen behind the scenes pictures of it? Like late last year, somebody released a batch of pictures from on the production set, and Peter Boyle is actually like blue, because they had to get him a certain color to be able to look that way on the screen.
For black and white, yeah.
It is, you see him, and it's so jarring. And then you think, oh yeah, that's how they used to do it way back in the day, to be able to get a certain pale monster look.
Well, it's funny because I think that's actually on the DVD cover of the movie, or certain DVD covers of the movie. That's
a blue shade, yeah.
he actually has that blue tinge to him instead of the black and white to it. So yeah, that's kind of funny. I didn't think I never really understood why, because the DVD that I have, that's what it looks like. He's blue.
Yeah.
You're right. I didn't understand it until they showed those behind the scenes bits, and I was like, oh, now, of course, right? It's just one of those things that you don't really think about until someone either tells you or shows you or whatever, and then it finally like clicks in your mind. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Why he looked the way he did, or how they would have gotten that effect to work how they did. So yeah,
Mhm.
makes sense.
Have you seen the two set of they look like the Mego figures of that? Of Gene Wilder and Peter Boyle, Frankenstein and the monster? You
No,
haven't
I
seen
don't think I've
that?
seen them.
It's a two figure collection. It's in like 10-inch.
really?
It's beautifully done. You know, the fabric clothes and everything. They look like collector's edition Mego stuff.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah.
It is. I saw that lots of times last year, and I almost bid. So it just Mel Brooks. I mean, I got hooked on Mel Brooks way back in the beginning when I was little. Like it was, it was 12 Chairs had been out for a little bit, and then it got Blazing Saddles and Silent Movie and stuff like that. You know, and then he had one coming out every few years, and then there started being a little bit more of a gap. You know, because he was, for some reason, he fell out of favor, which I never understood. They thought it was repetitive. They thought it was, just he's rehashing, even though he's putting out stuff that you could somehow connect them all together, make the Brooks verse or something like that if you really tried. But no, everything he delivered, even what was it, Dracula Dead and Loving It. That took a little time to. You had to really just want to watch it a few times to really absorb the subtleties of it. Because Leslie Nielsen, he did it very subtly.
Yeah.
But that was also Mel Brooks's writing and direction. He's like, okay, we're not gonna be so overt with it. We're really rely on sight gags and things like that, and call back to the days of like Young Frankenstein, where you're gonna do these little shout outs and callbacks to the original material, the old monster stuff, but you're gonna, it's not gonna be so in your face. And that's always been one of his hallmarks. One thing I wanted to see is he did the producers, and then he did Young Frankenstein on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
And New York City is 6 hours away, and I never got to be able to get down there to see it. And I heard it was fantastic. And at some point, he was supposed to, or somebody was supposed to actually release it on video, like a DVD set or something. And I don't know what happened to that.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the producers, the Broadway one. I mean, it's very close to the original concept of the movie, because they and then they redid it with
the
Nathan
remake
Lane and Matthew Broderick,
Mm-hmm.
which was basically taken from the Broadway. So basically, all the versions together were very, very close to the original concept and material, which was fantastic to watch. So I definitely want to see if they do ever release it, I definitely will get it.
Yeah, that was a great remake.
That was.
Yeah. I've never seen the original Mel Brooks one. The only one I've seen was that one, right? But that was a hilarious movie as well.
Gene Wilder and Zero Mostel. Oh, and I can't remember the actor's name who they got for the German guy who was a huge Nazi fan. Where the whole concept of Springtime for Hitler came from. The original guy, I can't remember his name, but he was fantastic. Had the pigeons up on the roof. Oh, it was so much fun. And the 12 Chairs is also a really good movie. You don't see much of anything about that. And the one movie that Mel Brooks was involved in, but he didn't have writing or directing credits, was Life Stinks. And a lot of people don't talk about that. where he was this big and rich executive, and then the richest to rags story and stuff like that, and he got down to the street level, and God, I can't remember her name. I can see her face. She was also on the street. Let me see if I can. I'll look it up in a minute. But and then she kind of, they kind of got involved and stuff like that, and she helped him get back up to whatever was going on in the end. But it was a really good, it was it was kind of like Mel Brooks' version of Trading Places, but he didn't have anything to do with the creative stuff. He just acted in it, and he just delivered Mel Brooks. And it's a great movie. It's a good, roughly 90-minute, 80-minute watch, I think it is. But that's Mel Brooks for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, at the beginning of the trailer, it kind of broke my heart to see him, because you do realize he is really old and stuff like that. Apparently, he's gone through a few things in the past couple years since you haven't seen him, and I saw him and it broke my heart. Because I love the guy. I love him as much as I would any member of my family. But he's still there. He's Mel Brooks. He's like, "Hi, and he looks in his coat to see what his
name is. Yeah, that was hilarious. He only has 11 movies to his credit as far as like the ones he directed, I believe.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's not a lot.
But yeah, because literally he stopped directing after Dracula Dead, loving it. But Robin Hood Men in Tights, I mean, my generation was quoting that movie, and hilarious.
I mean, and people outside of Life Stinks, people know, and maybe the 12 Chairs. You have to be. It's more of a deep cut, true Mel Brooks fan to know that stuff. But all the rest of them, you say the name of the movie, and people go, "Oh, I know that one.
Mm-hmm.
That's Mel Brooks. That's going to be part of his legacy." He did this one thing called An Audience with Mel Brooks one evening. It was in some theater in the Round thing. It was him and his wife, Anne Bancroft. And it was kind of like a callback to when him and Carl Reiner they sat down in front of the small audiences and they just grabbed a topic and they went with it, like the 2,000-year-old man stuff. I have all of that. I have all of it. And brilliant stuff. They could literally jump from topic to topic. And An Audience with Mel Brooks, with him and his wife, that was a callback to that stuff. And he did a little segment of 2,000-Year-Old Man. And they did, it came out right about the time that To Be or Not to Be came out. So they did one of the songs from To Be or Not to Be in it that they do together on the stage. It's one of the songs that leads up to them actually taking the whole cast and crew and escaping the Nazis. Sweet Georgia Brown or something like that. It's like all, but most of it's in like Yiddish, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's but it was great song, and seeing him do this thing. Now, if you want to find the video cassette of that, because nobody's bothered putting it to DVD, the cassettes go for like $70 a pop. And there aren't that many of them out there, so that it's people who know what they have, and the people buying them are the people who know what they are. But yeah, I mean, whatever the 10, 11 of the movies or whatever like that, of the stuff that people know of his, and then you tack on a couple of things that he's been in, like he was Robots. He was the voice of, I can't even remember the name of the character.
Yeah.
See a need, fill a need is what one of his big quotes was. And he was like the chubby robot. Can't remember the name of the character.
Name either.
But that was it was him and Ewan McGregor that were the main two characters.
Mm-hmm.
Great movie.
Well, he went into voice acting and in writing for a long time after that.
Yeah.
So, which goes back into the topic too, because there's another person that's kind of like held that way with the. For us, for like the British side, and that would have been Terry Gilliam, Monty Python and Time Bandits and Brazil.
The funny thing about Terry Gilliam, he's not British.
I know.
He was born in Minnesota.
I know.
That's the crazy part. He did.
Yeah.
He was doing animation stuff here in the States and all these different things, and then it kind of dried up. So he went to the UK. He went to start that show, their version of that show of shows and stuff like that. And then when Monty Python was formed, because he'd already worked with Idol and Jones, and they said, "Hey, we know this guy. He's way out there. We need him." And he became a part of Monty Python, but he was more like a featured player in Saturday Night Live for a while. And then they said, "Okay, he's a full-fledged member later on." And then he basically moved over there, was dual use citizenship, and he said, "You know what? I'm done with America. I'm going to live in the UK. I'm going to live in France." So, but I always thought he was British. I never knew that. I was like, "Well, that's pretty cool."
I mean, yeah, the earliest thing that most people know him from is Monty Python.
Yeah.
What's Monty Python? It's British, so you just
Straight up
okay.
British.
You actually think that because it's like,
and he went over there in like 68 or 69, I believe it was. And he immediately found work doing animation stuff. He immediately, little ads and stuff and commercials and things like that. And then he started working with Python. And then he started getting little bits on the show. And then when Python was done, he started his directing career. Because there was right about the time that they were done, he did the Jabberwocky, I think it is.
Yep.
And then from there is when he started putting together certain scripts, and that's where Time Bandits came from, and that's where
Brazil
came from.
Adventures of Munchausen. He did like The Life of Brian.
Those three are a trilogy.
Yeah.
Because he's got 2 sets of trilogies, and one of my favorite movies of his, outside of Time Bandits, is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Okay, and little known fact, J.K. Rowling wanted him to do the second Harry Potter movie, Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah, but they needed it on time and under budget.
Yeah, thing is, they got Chris Columbus, and because he went in, he did the meeting. They liked what he was offering, but they said, "No, we're going to go with Christopher Columbus." And he immediately left there and said, and he was so mad and disgusted, and later on told somebody his work was dull and pedestrian. he says it's unwatchable. He said, "I was the perfect guy for that." And he probably was. Having a Terry Gilliam Harry Potter movie, that would have been great. So the pictures on the wall would have been way, way more out of control, for starters. Okay, what this room opens up and turns into could have been way more.
Oh yeah.
It would have been so much more that he could have provided for that.
Well, just the imagination that he provided for what he wrote and we saw on film would have been beyond anything that we would what we have gotten with Columbus at that time for those. I think he did what, 2 movies, 3 movies?
I want to say 2, but it might have been 3. All I know is that he came in and some of the stuff he delivered was okay, but he ended up being the Joel Schumacher of the Harry Potter series. It just, if you look back at the stuff, it feels the same. It looks the same. Luckily there were no nipples in the robes, but
Quidditch nipples. I mean, is it bat nipples? I don't know.
Yeah, you get the backside of the Quidditch cup and it's got that smooth ham all working out nice and smackable. Would have been great, but I don't know. Because I went back and I read his biography, and he put out a book. Oh, I think it was in the 80s, and it's basically he teaches you how to do his artwork, how to do the stuff he did for Python. The books go minimum price $50. If you find a hardback of it, $200.
Oh wow!
It's 80 pages, but he teaches you to do what he did in Python. And
tons of right.
What's that?
With tons of acid and mushrooms, I think.
I don't know. Maybe that could be the first couple of pages. I don't know. I have never seen
with the giant foot that comes out of nowhere and just stomps on the audience.
Yeah, that's an iconic moment for Monty Python. They went to him and said, "Listen, we need something that ties together all the weird crap we're going to do," and he did it. He literally did it. He took a lot of the stuff that they had already shot, and they had him dress up and everything like that. Did cutouts and drawings, and mashed it all together for that intro, and just knocked it out of the park. And of course, so he took all that knowledge and he decided, all right, I'm going to go give this on my own. And look what we got from it. We got time management. We got Brazil. We got the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Well, here's two that one of them, The Fisher King, fantastic movie.
I've only seen that once. I got to go back and watch it.
Great.
That's the middle one of the second trilogy.
Yeah, Robin Williams. I think it was Jeff Bridges.
I remember Robin Williams being it.
Great.
It's been a hot minute since I've seen it, so I do need to go back and watch that.
Hey, 12 Monkeys.
12 Monkeys, yeah.
12 Monkeys. That's something that I would like to go back and revisit, because the last time I saw it, I wasn't prepared.
Did either watch the series?
No, remember you were talking about it before on the podcast previously. So I never got a chance to watch it.
No. Yeah. All I remember, the only thing that I really remember for some reason about 12 Monkeys is Brad Pitt. I know that he did a significant amount of stuff in it, and he was like the main character. But other than that, I really at that time, my brain couldn't absorb it.
Well, Brad Pitt's just a weird side character. The main character is old Die Hard himself,
Mr. Willis.
Yeah, see, that's that. I don't remember Bruce Willis being in it at all. Yeah. I remember Brad Pitt, because the stuff they had him doing was like, wow, okay.
Hey, it's a weird movie, right? It's a really out there movie, but I mean, yeah. But that one, right? I mean, that's again really imaginative, very different take on it's a time travel.
Mm-hmm.
It's a time travel movie that's actually really, really good, and there aren't a ton of those. So
no, it's like it's that whole thing. What you can come up with, as long as there's a time machine, it's meant to happen, so you never can change the future or the past. But one of the ones that I remember, the first movie I took my wife to was when we were first dating, was The Brothers Grimm.
Yeah,
it was great.
Grammy. Going and dealing with the Grammy. Yeah, no, that movie was great, right? I mean, it's always cool. That's one thing that I really like. I liked about that movie, and I liked about Fables, and why I wish to God they would eventually get something for Fables up and going aside from the Telltale games, is seeing that intermixing and mashing of the various old tales and seeing kind of different takes on them, maybe spins on them you wouldn't expect. And he did a great job, blending all those tales together and giving you little snippets of all these different groups and weaving together in a movie. Yeah, no, man, it was great. I mean, no one will ever say that Terry Gilliam doesn't have an imagination.
No. Now, have any of you seen Who Killed Don Quixote?
Not yet.
It took him a long time to get that out there, and I actually didn't know that he had actually finished and gotten it out, because the last I had heard and knew about it, it had gone through like the 5th round of whatever's going to happen to kill it. And then I was reading the other day on him, and I'm like, oh wait, it did come out? Great, now I got to go find that.
Yeah.
Because there was the history behind that movie alone is crazy. And he actually had people filming the making of it. And the only thing that people had for a while was the documentary that they did from that footage to prove that, yeah, it was actually something that was happening. And I hadn't seen that. So.
And then another one, like one of the ones that was my favorite, and me and my sister's favorite growing up, and that was The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, which I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Came out on Blu-ray, the Criterion version, and that movie is so bonkers off the walls as far as like all the different adventures he goes on. He gets younger as he tells story, and people believe in him. when people don't believe him, he gets older. It's Robin Williams and all the it was fantastic.
Yeah, it just that's another one. Let me go back and look that up again. Because in his Wikipedia page, they talk about the two trilogies here. Let me see. Additional years. Okay, Brazil. It's Time Bandits, Brazil, and Baron Munchausen. That are the first trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one is Fisher King, 12 Monkeys, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And the tying factor for that is, all on American soil type of thing. But the first trilogy is actually way more tied together because it's 3 stories of really bizarre things happening that could or couldn't be timed together. And if you go through them all, they feel like they are together. But they're stories told by a child, by a 30-year-old guy, and then somebody who's way elderly, Baron Munchausen. And that takes, that not only takes imagination, because nowadays everything's trilogies and stuff like that. He was doing that stuff way back before the trilogy thing was even a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually had it all mapped in his head and said, okay, I want to do this, and I'm going to adapt this to this and make this part of this. And then these are all going to go together, and they're going to tell these stories. I don't know, man. I really do want to know. I do want to know what fueled his brain. It's probably, mushrooms. It's probably just he probably owns like dozens of cows. And he just lets them do their thing in the yard, and then at a certain time in the morning, he goes out and finds the byproducts.
Maybe he's like Alan Moore, and he just has bushels of weed delivered to his house every single day.
Now, that's the Alan Moore thing. See,
that's Alan Moore, bro.
See, now he's
maybe he goes the Alan Moore route.
So
no, he's way more creative than Alan Moore, I think.
Maybe it just comes natural, it's life experiences with So, but
he definitely this assault in his stories. I'll give him that.
Yeah, and you're going to be of a certain character, or you're going to be of a certain caliber when you're hanging out with the likes of John Cleese and Eric Idle and Terry Jones and very crazy good comedy performers. And if you're able to hang with those guys, you've got to be able to bring something to the table easily. And Gilliam clearly showed that he had the chops, because Monty Python was right up there with, Peter Sellers and Dudley Moore. And then there's another guy that paired up with them that I can't remember his name. And a lot of people don't know this guy's name, but he was great. And then, of course, you had Hugh Laurie and Fry. You had the Goodies. All of this stuff was going on at the same time. So basically, the British Renaissance thing was like the 60s to the late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And, for Gilliam to come in, not be British, not be of a comedy background, being an artist and just this creative guy, and be able to be accepted among them at the caliber that they were. There's a lot more going on in his head than, there's probably pages of stuff he's written down that nobody will ever see until he passes.
Yeah.
That you're just going to go,
why didn't this get made?
Everything he made went, again, over budget and ran way over time. So yeah, everybody's like, Terry, we love you and we want you to make a movie, but
dude,
can you promise us that you're gonna make it within this time frame, please? And he's like, oh yeah, I'll do it. And then 1 year, it's like, well, we're gonna push that a little bit more and a little bit more, and hey, I need some more money and a little bit more and a little bit more. I mean, what you get is fantastic, right? Because if you put something in the oven and you let it bake for as long as it needs to bake, it's going to turn out awesome. And that's all his work. But yeah, studios.
I don't remember Fear and Loathing being over budget that much, though. I remember that delivering pretty close to time. But
Um,
then he's worked with Johnny Depp a few times, so the two of them were simpatico with it.
yeah.
Then that probably helped. You know, another one of his favorite things of mine, that came out wrong, sorry, that he did, Crimson Permanent Assurance. That was actually a short film that he did that was so good that they went back and added it to the beginning of Meaning of Life. That was an entirely separate thing. And then there was a soccer commercial that he, or it was like a short, basically, again, something else he created before ahead of its time. He had the top 3 football/soccer guys in the world doing 3-on-3 stuff inside of a ship on the water, and then just filled a bunch of like vignettes for it, and then they put them out. You know, and a lot of people don't know about this stuff. And it was great. I remember those; they were great.
Well, and then so going into more the British side of things, you got Red Dwarf.
Yeah,
Love that show. I wish we'd get another season, but I mean, I think they're at 12 now, and those guys are getting really old.
yeah.
But was it they went from Monty Python to Faulty Towers, I believe?
Well, John Cleese went to Fawlty Towers.
Yeah.
Like they went and did different things.
Right. Okay.
There were projects where 2 of them were in the same film or something like that together, but after because they did a couple of the specials later on, but there was a certain point where they just said, okay, you know what, we're just going to call it quits for a while. And that's when Gilliam went off and started doing his thing. But he had projects where he had a couple of them come back, and something he was working on had, like Eric Idle in it, and then Terry Jones was in a couple of them. And so there was constant cross pollination. But then they went back and did and then Graham Chapman died. And then that kind of really just threw a lot of it off the rails. And they did the special, and then they had I can't remember the name of it, but there was the live special thing that they did where they had the urn on the table. It was supposed to be Graham's urn and his urn and his ashes and stuff like that. And whenever something was going off kilter, the urn would start shaking and jumping up and down. And they brought Eddie Izzard in, and they said, he's unofficially the next Python, which is great because Eddie Izzard's one of my favorite comedians of all time. Very British, very inspired by all of the British stuff we talked about, and some more stuff. Peter Cook, there it is. Peter Cook was the guy who hung around with Peter Sellers and Dudley Moore. Not a lot of people know that, but Eddie Izzard was influenced by a lot of that. So he was like the next generation. And then you had Billy Connolly.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Connolly. For years, people thought Billy Connolly was a Python. He wasn't. He knew them all, but again, it was part of that whole group, that whole amalgamation of all that just carried they carried the water for generations.
Sadly, the only thing I know Billy Connolly from is dying in a Muppets movie and helping to murder the Italian mob.
Yes. Yes. Good stuff, though. If you ever get the chance, okay, I actually could probably arrange it because I actually bought it digitally. There's a thing that Eric Idle wrote called What About Dick? Okay, Billy Connolly, Eddie Izzard, Russell Brand, the lady who played Daphne in Frasier, and Tracy Ullman. And then there's a couple of other names. I know the names and I know them somewhat. But What About Dick is basically the old radio style play with the Foley sounds, the whole cast and crew, but they actually shot it at the Orpheum live. And then I have the audio version and I have the video version. Billy Connolly in that is fantastic. He plays a detective and he plays up the whole Scottish thing so wonderfully. Because he gets really into it. He's got the full beard and everything. And he really gets into it. And a couple times Eddie Izzard would just look at him and go, what? And then there's a song that he sings in it. That Eric Idle wrote. It's I can't even do it. It's so bonkers that it took somebody of Python character write it and somebody of that caliber, but not a Python, to actually sing this song. And just and the way they deliver it and stuff. But there's that right there. If you want to see some good Billy Connolly involved stuff, and Tim Curry's in it. Okay.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. Tim Curry, literally, this was one of his last performances pre-stroke.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. I mean, it happened weeks after they actually taped this and had it ready to go. That's how close it was.
Man.
So it's literally one of his last things. So and it's wonderful. And a lot of them play multiple characters and stuff like that. So I will see if I can figure out, because I still have one download from it, and I want to see. I might give you the code for it, Vinny,
Okay.
and you can play it through the Discord so everybody can watch it. And it's like an hour 20 or something like that, but it flows so nicely. It's wonderful.
So on a different note, I have to mention this because I'm a Transformers fan, but Eric Idle was the voice of Wreck-Gar.
Yes.
Junkions.
Yes. And he did a wonderful job with that.
Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing is they did speed it up a little bit for the audio to get that thing, but a lot of it was actually him. They didn't have to do much to it. He was able to just pump that out. That skill.
I think another time we need to go through like just some of these old great comedian actors, talk about Robin Williams, Eric Idle, and like in depth of what they did, and get my dad on, because we couldn't get him on for this episode, but I think that'd be great.
There needs to be a part 2 to this one, I think.
Yeah, and
we haven't touched the surface yet.
No, because there's lots of those like sitcom or comedy shows that were on here in the States that we haven't mentioned. And
right.
You also had what, SCTV?
Yeah,
Canadian, yeah.
And then there was Second City.
Mm-hmm.
You had the Bob and Doug McKenzie, the Strange Brew movie and everything like that. Great Little Chem came out of SCTV. You got John Candy, who was a legend.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I mean, as far as like American comedians go, I still put Robin Williams at the top, or if not at the top, right there.
Yeah, as far as acting comedians, yeah.
As far as being multi-talented, every time he went into something, he delivered. And that's another reason Fisher King, it's the cult classic that it was, because he delivered.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's like Eddie Murphy fit into that category up until like he became a family man, and some of his stuff started to change as far as the humor he started with.
Yeah, there was a point where he just kind of toned it down a lot. And
and we've talked about that with like Coming to America too, how the fact that it didn't live up to the first movie at all.
No, it wasn't as raw. Even when you go back and look at 48 Hours and then another 48 Hours, you could see that the beginnings of Eddie Murphy toning it back a little bit, because he'd gotten in trouble with a couple of things along that time frame. You could see the difference. Like Eddie Murphy's Raw, that comedy special, still one of the top, top talked about, referred, viewed specials, because that was Eddie Murphy. That was right off the heels of Saturday Night Live. He came out and said, "Listen, I'm not doing Gumby. If you came here for that, you're gonna be disappointed." And then talked about Elvis in such a crude way. That was great.
Yeah, but there's a lot we need to get into, but we'll go ahead and start wrapping this up. Yeah, I really wish we could have got Dad on because this would have been good. We had probably would have had a little bit of longer episode, which is it's just fine in what it is. But
Yeah. So Vince, when you watch this, make notes. When we go to do part 2, then it's your time to shine.
yeah. David, anything you want? You have any other input? Anything you want to recommend? Our comedy specials, anything like that that we didn't mention?
Man, I don't know. Like comedy is one of those weird genres for me that it's hard for me to like always say like, yeah, you need to go watch this, right? Because some comedies that people talk about with me don't land all that well. So it's like, but I mean, it's these kind of off kilter ones, right? Are great. I mean, well, was it the last episode that we were talking about? Death of the Funeral, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was
Yes.
a good example of both the British and the American side of it, right? Because you have
Yes.
and an American version of that movie, and both of them are great, right? Both of them are fantastic. Just that off-putting, off-kilter kind of humor is always great.
Yes, absolutely. That and of course that the British version was first, and then there was a quick turnaround to do the American version. So again, that was the birth of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. That is a great pairing of seeing how you get the right people involved with one project and one idea. You can do a couple versions of it and have them be consistent, and you can watch them back to back and say that they're both great. I can't pick one over the other. That's comedy. That's the type of stuff that drives a lot of people to say, okay, that's what I'd like to do. And all the stuff we talked about tonight was, the comedy that I write is way bonkers at times. Weird. My friend Derek Hart called it weird and fantastic. And that's all because I grew up on the staples of the British comedy and Mork and Mindy and Saturday Night Live and SCTV and Second City, the bonker stuff.
Yeah.
There were no rules. It was the wasteland. It was the Wild West of comedy before censors and butthurt came in.
We can get into I think another couple episodes too of like just perfect stand-up comedy, and then like even films, because Clue is a fantastic movie comedy with multiple endings that was great. Because like I remember my dad telling me that when they went to the theaters and different people in different theaters were coming out with different endings, and it's like that's not how it was in my version of the theater. And then when you got the VHS DVD release of it, it was and all the
yes. So yes, let's make notes and let's make this let's make it a trilogy.
Yeah, we can do that
as a tribute to all the stuff we've talked about. Let's make it a trilogy.
Well, and since we're at 67, when we get to 70, we probably may do a special, the live. We will be doing a live special, of course. We normally do on every 10th episode, but we may go into going into the whole thing about more in depth.
Yeah, let's I like that idea. Let's do the final part of it. Let's just make all the notes and let's make this one upbeat. The last few have been a mix of stuff. Let's make 70 really just bonkers, off the rails, great. I think we can do that. I like that.
Okay. Well, everyone, we hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope you enjoy the idea of what we're going to come up with for the 70th episode. But until then, everyone have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Later.
Like and subscribe.